line ho, uyu line lelo mana mene, mana wanzeru, line ho,
line ho, uyu line lelo mana mene, mana wanzeru, ukacha mama wa amatengazaje, kusesa bakomo pamaivaje.
Ukacha mama
Early morning,
amatengazaje,
kusesa bakomo lamaivaje.
magolo
aline,
amuya mikira,
akuti line lelo mwana mene, mwana wanzeru.
magolo aline, amuya mikira,
akuti line lelo mwana mene, mwana wanzeru. Line ho, uyu line lelo mwana mene, mwana wanzeru. Line ho, uyu line lelo mwana mene, mwana wanzeru.
Agire gogo wana madingo, zamu ya mikira, kudi na madingo mwana mene, mwana wanzeru. Agire gogo wana madingo, zamu ya mikira,
kudi na madingo mwana mene,
mwana wanzeru.
Simuku na mago,
Tawizi na
ne malota ine, bambo wanga tandisi enda
salandeka. Tawizi na
mwe ni malota ine, bambo wanga tamwali enda
salandeka. Gonda mama, Gonda une mama mwe, Gonda mama chalamanda,
tafera mwenda we. Gonda mama, Gonda une mama mwe, Gonda mama chalamanda, tafera mwenda we.
Right, thank you and welcome to another wonderful time right here on OY Media Scotland. Those that have joined us from OY Media in Ibadan, thank you very much for joining us. Today again we have Alagba Femi Odedeyi, and he will be taking us through a very, very important topic today because it has become very necessary. And that topic is Yoruba agitators failing to plan and thereby planning to fail. In the first instance, we want to commiserate with the people of Ondo State in Nigeria, the governor, and all the leaders right on there, and of course, the families of the victims of the attack that has been reported in that place. Our prayers are with you. And of course, our prayers are also with the head of the country. Many thanks to those that have dropped up message. Just immediately this program starts, I'm going to get your name. And that's that. I enjoyed the program very well. Thank you very much. Please do subscribe to our YouTube page and of course, our Facebook. You know, it's always the same. It's OY Media Scotland. That is what you see there. So I will be bringing in Alagba Femi Odedeyi to discuss this topic. Are Yoruba agitators planning to fail or failing to plan and thereby planning to fail? Please do stay on with me. You are most welcome to the program, Alagba Femi Odedeyi.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me once again. And thank you for all our viewers who are watching us either live or a replay. And we trust that our interaction will not be in vain. Thank you.
Amen. Big amen to that, sir. And
Yes.
of course, thank you very much for joining us again. For those that are probably joining this program for the first time, Alagba Femi Odedeyi is from Yoruba Referendum Committee. And the organization is pushing for all the southwest states of Nigeria, covering Lagos states, Ondo State, Ekiti State, Osun State, Oyo State, and which will be the last one?
Oshun.
Osun.
Oshun State.
Yes. That they should come together to form a government that is a region within Nigeria. And you will agree with me that when we talk about the history of Nigeria today, and when we talk about the time, we all seems to agree that that nation worked. We always refer back to the 60s when we have the regional arrangements where the regions are handled, in quotes, by the ethnic nationalities. And we saw massive progress in the western region. We talk about Cocoa House till today. We talk about Liberty stadiums, and we talk about most of the embassies, or they were set up by the Western region then, and they became what the Nigerian government is using today. Of course, right at the northern part of Nigeria, then too, we had the Grand North Pyramids, which obviously you see in some of our currencies in those days. You have those pyramids there to show that yes, there was prosperity around that part of the country as well in the 60s during the regional arrangement. And of course, right in the east, you have, and they've always said this before, the oil, which has now become like a cost to Nigeria. There was actually oil in the east, and those oil, it was part of what they use for the European machinery revolution. They were getting those oil from the eastern part of Nigeria during that revolution of workforce in Europe. So everybody, to an extent, seems to agree that yes, the time when this nation worked was when we don't have a powerful person out there telling everybody what to do, or having all money packed into Abuja, and then they now take, each person takes their own, and then they throw the remaining to the states. It was a time when the power was actually in the region, where those regions were generating their income, they were managing their own economy, and then they were sending a certain percentage to the center for administration, the military, and some other international engagement. So that is what Yoruba Referendum Committee is saying, that listen, we need to get back to that. But it's not just getting back to that, but actually
How?
How? Yes, how? And that is where the referendum comes in, and that is saying the people of the Yoruba people in Nigeria have got a right to decide what they want. So it's actually not the Yoruba referendum telling the people that, yes, you must accept this. What the committee is saying is that let there be a referendum in Yoruba land, and let people decide whether they want to have all those 6 states come together to become a region or not. They're giving grants to those people that will agree and those people that will not agree. And that is why from the Yoruba Referendum Committee, you've not seen anybody threatening any other person for not agreeing with them or cursing them and things like that. You don't hear all such things. But today, we'll go round to some of the major Yoruba agitation strategy, and we look at them. And this is also using this platform to reach out to those agitators to check the strategy they're using. Because at the end of the day, what we all want is to have a liberated Yoruba nation within Nigeria. I must mention that for the Yoruba Referendum Committee. So it's not about leaving Nigeria now, but it's really about within Nigeria, and then every other thing could happen after. And I think that is where I'm going to start, because that seems to be the first question. Why is Yoruba Referendum Committee saying that it's a region within Nigeria we need first, and not to just exit the country as it is now? Over to you, sir.
Okay. Well, as usual, I always say these things are simple. And they are always simple if we address our minds to it. Now, the question is, we'll take the Yoruba question or the Yoruba issue within the context of the global African issue. And what is the global African issue? We all know the history of Africa, the transatlantic, the Sahelian slavery, and what we have gone through and what we have been going through, and all this and all that. We all know it, or at least most of us know it. And we know how Africa had become actually balkanized. That is, the many nationalities in Africa that were balkanized into several countries with artificial boundaries. So even if we are going to talk about leaving any country, or saying you want to secede, or you want your nation of your own, a state of your own, and all that, are you going to avoid, let's take the Yoruba, for example. The Yoruba are found in Benin Republic, in Ghana, Togo, and some other places. So if you carve out a Yoruba Republic from Nigeria, are you now going to allow the other Yoruba in other countries to come back in? Or are you going to ask them to secede from their own countries and join you? Or are you going to just, quote unquote, develop your own Yoruba country in Nigeria, and then, stuff like that? So the reality of the African peoples, including the Yoruba people, is that we are balkanizing to several countries. So to even carve out one country from the other will require you fighting other countries on the African continent. Because otherwise, your quest for your sovereignty, as it were, as they put it, will be meaningless. And then you become a pawn in international power place. So that reality is why we are saying that the issue for Yoruba or any other nationality in Nigeria is not to live, as they say. I don't know where they are living to, but to transform the nature of the state, which is the problem of most African countries, and which is the problem that is causing the confusion and the conflicts and the violence in all the African countries. Cameroon is right there. Why are they fighting each other? Because the French and the English-speaking peoples who are forced into a union and all that. So it is the nature of the African states, that is the state structure, the state architecture, that was created, first by the colonial powers and then reinforced by the various military regimes that came into play in the 70s and 80s in order to undermine the nationalities. So to address it means that it is that state structure that we must address and transform. That was why the struggle in Nigeria started between the Federalists and the Unitarists. That is, the Federalists led by the Awolowo group, and then even the Northern People's Congress of the North at that time was in favor of federalism, of course, with the condition or proviso that the North will be in control. Of course, nobody will accept that. But they were even sensitive to it. It's only the NCNC, when Azikiwe took over. NCNC was not an Igbo party originally. It was largely a Yoruba party. That was why it was more influential in Lagos and all the rest. It was when Herbert Macaulay died and Azikiwe took over that he now used that to make it, to get at that time they had a group called the Igbo State Union, which was now used to ram into the NCNC and took it over. So they are the only ones that were talking about a unitarist state. And that was why the NCNC of Nnamdi Azikiwe at that time opposed the Yoruba in Kwara and Kogi states from having their referendum or plebiscite to join the Yoruba in the Western region, and then the alliance with this. So that's why I said it's very easy. All we need to do is to look at what the trajectory of our experiences, and then see, okay, so what is the problem? So the inability of the agitation to address the state structure. That is, so all these we are living, we are going, Yoruba nation now, they are just running away from the problem. So, and we don't want to run away from the problem. We don't think we should run away from the problem because we know and we understand how the problem came about. Now, it may be a big obstacle or a big challenge to address, but then once you state it, you know what the problem is, and then you go forward towards resolving it. So these are the issues, and there's no way. I mean, the Yoruba nation people now, we know the role played by the Yoruba in Benin Republic during the Nadeko days. We know it. And we even know the role they play during these current Igboho days. Now, if the Yoruba in Benin were already agitating to be a nation or to join the Yoruba nation, the government of Benin Republic will not be able to do what it did. So, either during Abacha or anything, because they will see you as a threat to them. So, the best way to address these issues is just like ECOWAS or the European Union. When after the Second World War and all that, then the Europeans they have to have some kind of economic cooperation, and from economic cooperation, at that time they call it the EEC and all the rest, became the European Union and all that. So if we are talking about the national question in Nigeria, we have to recognize the artificiality of the current borders. Once we recognize the artificiality of the current borders, that means the Yoruba people in Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Ghana have similar social and cultural interests. So how do we harmonize all these interests without turning the Yoruba in other countries into the enemies of the governments of those countries, and without jeopardizing the Yoruba interests across the board? So, and the most attractive method is this democracy we are talking about. So if we transform Nigeria into a federal state, that will become a beacon, an example for other countries that have similar contradictions, and there are many in Africa. So it will be easier even for the Yoruba and Benin Republic to demand such a federal state if necessary, in Togo or anywhere else, because it's not just a Yoruba affair alone. And then, of course, the extreme cases in Congo Republic, or even Ethiopia and Eritrea. These are, when the Ethiopians tried it after the overthrow of the military of Mengistu in 1994, and then they had this, what they call ethnic federalism and all that. But because the dominant political movement at that time, the Tigray People's Liberation Movement, or party, was a dictatorship, as it were. So by the time they did, and then they now had their own Tigray region, and they were ruling their own Tigray region. And by the time their national power was whittled down, that was how this whole crisis and the war began, because the current regime in Ethiopia now wanted to destroy that federalism that was the replacement for the military regime. So the question in Africa is the question about the states, the governing apparatus, the governing structure, the type of political structure that is governing us, not just a question of you are Yoruba, I'm Igbo, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm that. So once we get it right, it will be easier to address any contradiction. So that's why I said this is very simple, that you don't run away from a problem, and then So I mean, once we see it from that perspective, the solution will be easier. When we started on this journey and all that, we made a provision now for the Yoruba in Benin Republic, the Yoruba in Brazil, and all the rest of it. There's a contribution the African people have to make towards civilization.
Definitely.
And that is our contribution, that the nature of state, all along for the past 400 years, 400 or 600 years, 1648 and all that, when the nation-state paradigm began in Europe, when the Holy Roman Empire was dismembered, and then you have all these nations and their countries and all that, that was their contribution to human civilization. That was what they imposed on Africa, which is not working. So by logic or by implication, our own contribution must be, okay, what do we have to offer the world in terms of these contradictions? And it is that was why federalism became an issue in Africa. And it is only in the African continent that it has become a sore in the mind. I mean, we have other federal systems in the world, but in terms of the fundamental basis of the nation, then that is where we are. So that's why I said it is very easy if we apply our minds to it and not be driven by mere emotions.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. So I want us now to look at, we'll still come back to the agitation to have Yoruba completely out of Nigeria, because we will look at that as well, in depth. The topic that we have, which is, are Yoruba agitators failing to plan and thereby planning to fail? Now, it wouldn't mean that people are not doing anything, but whether they are able to look at the strategy and seeing whether that strategy has a sort of an end game that will be profitable for the movement or for the cause, or to achieve what actually they want. So I'm going to take it straight on from Nina's. I'll take Nina's. The reason I'm starting with Nina's is because they actually declared a force majeure on the Nigerian government, and that was in December 16, 2020. So it was a constitutional force majeure, and from the feelings we have from the people, from the masses of Nigeria, are people that are watching me, when at times when you use masses, we're just talking about population. We are not talking about the poor people. So the masses of the ethnic nationalities, because Nina's attempts to take all ethnic nationalities. I mean, so the masses believe that when the force majeure was issued, once the dates has come, they believe they were no longer. In fact, some people were already out there jubilating that on so day we are no longer part of Nigeria, we won't be part of Nigeria again and stuff. And then suddenly the day came and nothing changed. Some of the people were like, oh, okay, so it's not happening. Or some people will be like, oh, they deceived us. And they still find out that the following day, when they went out, they still have to obey the Constitution, the Mexican Constitution, which the group leading them has told them that, listen, from this day, that Constitution is no longer effective on you. But they found out that they still have to obey that Constitution. They still have to obey the traffic law under that Constitution. They could still be arrested by the police, which are operating under that Constitution when they have issues which require legal activities. They still have to go to the court that is under that Constitution, which they say is no longer effective as far as they are concerned. And then it goes on and on like that. So I want us to look at this this one first, that what lesson can we learn from it? And I know there are times you do hold a little bit back because you don't want to criticize other groups, but then I think where we are today, we actually need to be laying things out, and we hope that those people from those organizations, when they are hearing it, they will actually go back to sit down and look at, okay, this information that is being said, let's check it and let's see where we didn't do the right thing or where we could do the things better, because that's what we want to achieve here. So what lesson could we learn from that? And could we say that those people, because I mean, these are highly referred people that are very learned in different fields and well-traveled, some members of NENAS, bearing in mind also that it's a combination of different groups. So those are the two questions. What can we learn from it? And does it mean that those who proposed this force majeure failed to take into cognizance that there are some things that needs to be done before the other?
Thank you very much. It is true that this is the time that we now have to start being forthright and not holding anything back without insulting anybody or without questioning anyone's credibility. But the simple truth, again, is that the leaders or the leadership of these groups, let's take NINAS, then we can go to the breakaway faction, which is now called Ilana in Yoruba land. Yes, they are well-traveled. They have interacted with different characters and different political movements all over the world. And yes, your question is very apt. What lessons did they learn from other experiences? I will say none. None, because even I'm not a lawyer, but we do read about legal issues and stuff like that. A force majeure is a contractual relationship between two entities. The NINAS people have no contract with the Nigerian government.
Right.
Therefore, they cannot even declare any force majeure. If there's going to be any force majeure in anything, it will going to be the Nigerian government declaring force majeure. Why they cannot follow the constitution, which they have done before by saying they have a doctrine of necessity and all the rest of it during the Yaradua regime. So, by definition, the whole concept of force majeure is irrelevant. And we did let them know when they were saying so, when they were doing it, that what you are doing is not going to lead anywhere. And we were rebuffed. We said, we don't want them to leave Nigeria. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. And go ahead now. So now, have that basic understanding of what force majeure is. If the nationalities now want to have or if the peoples of Nigeria now have a problem with the Nigerian constitution, it is a political problem. It's not a problem of contract. There is no contract between the Nigerian people, the different peoples in Nigeria, and the Nigerian government. What happened simply was that the military came, imposed a decree, called it a constitution, and we are saying we don't agree with it. So it's a political issue which must be fought or addressed on a political basis. But most of these people that are in these groups are afraid of that political contest. So they will create a safe, quote unquote, a safe aspect for themselves and be throwing stones from the outside. Meanwhile, the politicians that are operating these things will be going on. Maybe they started by saying there will be no elections in anywhere, what they call the Alliance Territory. Now, Anambra had elections. They had a governor. In Yoruba land, they say, no election. They will kill anybody that goes to election and all that. And they were part of now they are now going to court even in Osun and Ekiti State. The same court. When you declare a constitutional force majeure, and now under that declaration, you are still enjoying the benefits that are provided by what you have declared against. It doesn't make any sense. If the judge wants to humor you, they will just keep on postponing it until forever. But if they want to be very strict, it's a question of, okay, you said we don't exist. You have said we can't operate. So why are you coming to us for arbitration? So there's a sense in which most of the leaders of these groups don't apply the lessons they learn from other countries to our own situation. Otherwise, they will not be taking the steps they are taking. At that time, all the Ninas people, even the Yoruba members of the Ninas people, were telling us that we have left Nigeria. I say, is that how you leave Nigeria? They said, no, we have left Nigeria, we have left Nigeria. Okay, those who are saying that, who are the Yoruba among them, saying that they have left Nigeria and all this and all that and all that, they are the ones now coming back to now start saying that we need a regional referendum.
Yeah.
Yes, Ninas is now saying and that was what we had been telling them right from the beginning, that this is a political problem and it must be resolved politically. So how do we resolve it politically? We have to mobilize and encourage all the different peoples in Nigeria to take the political stance of legitimizing what they are demanding from, which is what we call the Yoruba Referendum, which is another name for a regional referendum, as it were.
Yes.
So the problem is that's why I said the problem is they are not learning from the experiences. All these things they have access to. So it's not enough, like one of my older friends used to say, it's not enough to know what you are against. What is more important is to know what you are for, what you are for. So anybody can criticize anything.
Yes.
Anybody can criticize anything. The most crucial thing is, what do you want to replace it with? So if Nigerian constitution is this, is that, we are not with the people. Okay, if it says with the people and the people have no part, where are the people? How are the people going to become we the people? You don't need to make any declaration of constitutional force majeure before you do that. So all these highfalutin grandstanding, that is what they are doing. I don't know whether I'm jumping the gun by jumping to Ilano now, that, the same thing now with the 5 million signatures they are talking about.
Because we'll be coming to that as well.
Okay, let me leave it to that. Let me just limit this to the Nina's thing. So that is the problem. And then, then they will even be so ridiculous to say they have achieved what aim have you achieved? They have passed a milestone. The Nigerian constitution is no longer functioning. What are they talking about? If the Nigerian constitution is no longer functioning, Nigeria will not be a member of the United Nations today. Buhari will not be going to Spain and all the places that they said he's going about, traveling all over the place. And then all eyes of the world will not be on the Nigerian government as, okay, who is going to be your candidate next year? Maybe they said then they said they were going to open the border the last time. Who opened the border? Is it not the Nigerian government? So these are basic issues that we hope our people will open their eyes to see that it is not just any declaration that makes sense. And it is unfortunate that instead of educating people, most of the leaders of these organizations end up befuddling issues, and then they make the agitation irrelevant, and then they play into the hands of the politicians they are condemning, and the cycle goes on. But we are determined to break that cycle, at least in Yoruba land, and we expect other people to be serious enough to embrace it. We are not asking them to follow us. All we are saying is, here is a template. You can also use it in your own environment and see how it works out with you. So the ruling elites of different nationalities are fighting among themselves how to, divide the spoils. The peoples, the masses of the different nationalities also need to fashion now their own political system that will challenge their own elites. Because it is only by, let's say, the Yoruba people challenging Yoruba elites is what will allow Yoruba people to have a say in the Nigerian conundrum, Nigerian situation. And if others do similarly, then our elites will be responsible to us, your elites will be responsible to you. And then because we have a plan of action, we have our own political system, it will be easier to collaborate at that point.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we go for a short break, that's another question which I just wanted to just do a short response to. Some people have asked that Yoruba Referendum Committee, why we have many ethnic nationalities in Nigeria. That's why is Yoruba Referendum Committee concentrating on the Yoruba people and actually not extending to other ethnic nationalities who seems to have the same issue with the Nigeria over-centralized system of government?
Yeah, again, simple. I've already explained it. Okay, we call it the Yoruba Referendum Committee for Yoruba people. Okay, so let's say the Igala people or any other nationality also has the same problem. They can also devise a similar method for themselves. They don't have to be part of the Yoruba Referendum Committee. The Yoruba Referendum Committee doesn't have to be part with them because we have our peculiar issues. So they will set up their own referendum processes in their own nation, in their own area. So when we can now compare notes. Where are we? How far are we going? Things like that. But the template is already there. So if tomorrow the Igala Referendum Committee comes up, then we say, okay, the two, so there's nothing un-Nigerian about the Yoruba Referendum Committee. So what we are saying is that let every nationality proceed on its own referendum course. And if you want to do it from a regional platform, The Southwest region, South region, any region, things like that. But let it be domesticated. Let it be within the peoples that are concerned. That's all. There's no contradiction on that. There's no contradiction on that. So, yeah, I mean, it's a short.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Alagba Femi Odedeyi. And for those that are watching us, thank you very much for staying on with us. Remember, like our page on YouTube is OY Media Scotland, and of course on Facebook. Alagba Femi Odedeyi is still with us. We've just dealt with one of the strategies. After this shorter break, we will be coming to look at the other strategies. So please do stay on with us.
Thank you.
Ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú kí ló dé o tẹ́bí ń ṣòro bí èwe kí ló dé ẹ̀yin ṣe èèyàn bí ọkà èyí ti ṣe àgbà ìlú àṣòro bí èwe. Ta ni yóò padà táyé ṣe o ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú kí ló dé o tẹ́bí ń ṣòro bí èwe kí ló dé ẹ̀yin ṣe èèyàn bí ọkà èyí ti ṣe àgbà ìlú àṣòro bí èwe. Ta ni yóò padà táyé ṣe o ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú kí ló dé o tẹ́bí ń ṣòro bí èwe kí ló dé ẹ̀yin ṣe èèyàn bí ọkà èyí ti ṣe àgbà ìlú àṣòro bí èwe.
Right, thanks for staying on with us and welcome back. We still have Alagba Femi Odedeyi right on the program. And remember, we're dealing with the question, are Yoruba agitators failing to plan and thereby planning to fail? You are most welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah, so for those watching us that are not Yoruba, that song is in Yoruba. And of course, what you saw there, and we'll be talking about it before the end of the program, which is just the poster for the Yoruba Referendum Committee. I mean, for the referendum. I mean, some of you will have seen these posters out there, but we'll be talking about it later on. But what he's saying is actually the music is really talking to the elders in Yoruba land, because you know that in Yoruba land we have a high reference and respect for the elders. We'll be coming right to that in the course of this program as well, because it's one of the strategies that some have deployed and some are still deploying. So we'll still talk about it. So the song was just calling on the elders that it's a time for them to stand. It's a time for them as elders to lead and not stay back as kids. So that's just for those people that do not hear Yoruba from that music. So back to Alagba Femi Odedeyi. The second strategy we want to pick is the strategy that's been used by people like Chief Sunday Igboho. We must commend his boldness. We must commend his passion to see a liberated Yoruba nation. And we must commend also the resources that he has personally put into the struggle. But we're talking about strategies and whether people are actually looking at these strategies they've put in, whether as individuals or groups, whether they actually think about what it could achieve and what will be the end game of that strategy. Immediately after the declaration of the force majeure, Chief Sunday Igboho came out, and he's been to the forest, trying to root out the bandits, the Fulani herders that were causing problems and killing people. But then it came to the point where both himself and his media handler, Koiki, they started talking about they're going to anyone that is standing for election, they're going to shoot them from their back. They started talking about insulting the elders, cursing people, making threats and stuff and things like that. I mean, I take it as, in their own way, is their strategy. And these are things we're looking at, that now this strategy, we saw what happened. Because before he started talking about some of these things, I think the federal government was just like, well, it's just another person. They really didn't bother until when this other part started coming in, threatening people, threatening the kings, threatening the politicians and stuff. And then one thing led to the other. And obviously the killer squad was sent after him, and from there, obviously, left the country. Unfortunately, lives were lost at his residence. And if not for the lady that was there that made a video capture, in fact, the Nigerian government was ready to deny that they were involved in it at all. So, but thank God that somebody recorded it. They couldn't deny it. But then after he left, or after he left for the Benin Republic, and of course he was arrested, he's been released now, we'll now see that that strategy is like, in quotes, I mean, and that's the way we see it now, is that it has come to an end. So when you look at this, and what we're saying is that for people to learn, that when you look at this strategy, in case some people still want to use it, what can we learn from this strategy and the impact such strategy has had or will have on the agitation for Yoruba liberation?
Well, what can we learn from it? One, it is not the noise that will create the victory or success. It is. I like one historical example I always use in these matters. In 1968, in France, when the students in France embarked on a series of demonstrations and revolts and all that against the government of Charles de Gaulle, they were at the verge of taking over power. If they had continued the demonstrations for 1 or 2 more days, the government would have fallen and something else would replace it. So they asked the leader, one of the leaders of the French student movement at that time, his name is Daniel Cohn-Bendit. He's now a member of the European Parliament. They said, okay, so what is your theory? What is your motivation? The theory that is guiding your demonstrations? And he said, oh, well, it doesn't matter. They will pick it up along the way. The question was, okay, if you are having these demonstrations and the government cannot respond and all that, what is your strategy for taking power? He said they will pick it up along the way. In the process of taking it up, they crushed the student movement and everything went back to normal. So it's the same, it's a similar thing with this Igboho thing that, yeah, okay, you did this, you did that, you ran around and this and this. So what is your, and then it's like, it doesn't matter, since we can open the borders, since we can run them out of town, that is all. But that is not what power is. Earlier on, I said that the whole thing is a political struggle. which means it's a struggle for power. And when you want to embark on such a thing, the Yoruba will say, "Kò sí ohun tuntun lábẹ́ ọ̀run," and even the Bible says it. The first thing you should do, aside from the whether you are angry or you are not angry or anything, is to seek others. Okay, how do we do this thing? How do we go about doing these things? And then you combine all your skills and things like that and create a strategy. For one thing, when the Igboho was doing all those things, if there was a proper strategy in place, this is my own opinion, he needn't have gone to Benin Republic to try and go to Germany. All he needed to do was to go to the German embassy, either in Lagos or Abuja, and ask for asylum. He's a German citizen or a resident or something like that. By being in Nigeria, in the German embassy, the Nigerian government cannot touch him. The worst that will happen is Germany will evacuate him to Germany. But by being in Lagos or Abuja at the German embassy, he becomes a political symbol of resistance. That is, I'm not saying he should do that, but that is how battles are waged. And we have seen it in different parts of it. So at every stage in time, it is incumbent on any activist or any agitator to stop thinking that they have what it takes. And I blame the Yoruba, shall I say, traditionalists for it. They think they have all these things that can turn a mountain into a flat land. And then because of that, they start running their mouths. So the first thing, once you understand that one, you are not the only one carrying out these things. So anything you want to do, even if you don't go and meet people in person, you have records of what people have done. You know people who has done certain things. You are to first of all sit down, weigh your options against what the others have done, and then map out your own strategy as to how to go about doing it. That is how to conduct these struggles. And then you have an idea of the dangers and the limitations of the dangers and what you can do to prevent it. Unfortunately for Igboho, I won't put all the blame on him or any criticism too much on him. Most of his enablers, who are intellectuals, are the ones that are guilty of these things. This guy, the one that you mentioned, Shebi is based in Britain now. I think, the media guy is based in Britain. So he has access to some of these things. Why is he not using it? Why is he abandoning experience, history, and practice, and then think that just by blowing or running his mouth, they will achieve whatever it is they want to achieve? So that is one of the major limitations that they had. And then they go about, this is our youth. We are the youth. We are this. Okay, you are the youth. You are this. You have the energy. You do this. You do that. What are youth in other countries doing? What are the limitations of what they did, and how did it affect their countries? There were youth in Egypt when the Arab Springs was going on. What happened to them when they ended up removing the government and then replaced with a military regime that now crushed them? In Sudan, why is it continuous? One government after the other and demonstration, this and that and that and that. That is, I use the example of France. Why did they almost succeed? In fact, the transition from the Gaul to the current liberal system was due to that youth demonstration. These are even far away experiences. What happened to the Occupy Lagos? What happened to Occupy? Is it Occupy Ojota, wherever they want to occupy during the
Ojota that was led by Nigeria.
In Nigeria. So what happened even to during the Nadeko period? What was the role that was played by different sectors and all that, that allowed certain things to happen and certain movements to take place and, things like that. All these should have played a part in what they're agitating for. But to now say that or think that because we are talking about Yoruba nation, all those things don't matter, that is a fallacy. And unfortunately, even if Igboho doesn't know, there were those who are supposed to know that were egging him on, but were not educating him. And here we are with it today. So these things are not, again, not rocket science. They are simple if only people are humble enough to understand that it is not the amount of noise or emotion they put into it or rhetorical skills that they put into it that people have. Oratory has led people to perdition in history. Hitler was a great orator. Even right now, what is his name? Zelensky in Ukraine. He's a great. So who is suffering it? So it is not your oratory. It is not your emotion. It is your grounding with historical and contemporary reality. And we have abundance of them. So why are you not utilizing it? Some will call it opportunism, political opportunism. You just want to be popular. You just want to be this. You just want to be that. And we have seen how such things have even damaged the Yoruba self-determination movement in the recent past. So why are we not learning from it? So it's, if those things don't exist, then we can say the problem is difficult. But if they exist and we take time to learn from them, we say they are not difficult. I remember during the NSAS, of all people in Nigeria or Yoruba people, it took a Doyin Okupe to come out and tell those people, look, you don't wage this thing like this. So you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do that. They told him to shut up. Doyin Okupe, who is not even, I can't consider him a progressive politician, let alone a nationalist or revolutionary. He can call himself anything he wants to call himself. But even people like that, they saw the limitations and they called their attention to it, but they were rebuffed. And then you start blaming somebody for doing certain things. So there's a sense in which we must not only be humble, and humility is not even a question of a personality trait. It's simply a respect for history, both contemporary and historical. When you respect it, then okay, you are not the only one in this thing, and you are not the only one. So what has happened? Then you situate yourself within it, and then you are able to move forward. That doesn't mean the road will be smooth, but definitely there are certain things that you will avoid, and there are certain things you know. So those are the things that are responsible for, I mean, how can someone like Igboho, when he was talking about killing people, and you have professors around him not cautioning him? So why should he be going? Whether you agree with them or not is even beside the point. Whether you agree with the election or not is not beside. But to be going there, you kill them, you shoot them, you burn down the palace, you do this, you do that. And there are professors with him who cannot say, look, even if you want to do it, that is not the way to go. It's not even necessary anyway. So, okay, Shebi, now that we now see it, everybody is now lining up behind their own. But you are saying you want to kill our own people. And we were telling them at that time, this thing is not like that. Now, it is now clear to everybody. Everybody is lining behind their own people. And then you now say, no, you are going to kill your own. It doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, one can have courage. One can have boldness. But they say if you are bold and you don't have the brains,
Yeah.
So, but you see, the thing is so serious that I have no problems with Igbo, or maybe he did it the way he understood it.
Yes.
But there are people that were around him that ought to have known better and put him in the right path, and they didn't. And the entire movement, their own movement too, they are now running all over the place with all kinds of stories. So let us, if we are going to be, I mean, whether we want it or not, history will continue to march on. Whether we do what we do today or we don't do it, someone else will come out tomorrow and do, So it's not the issue. But as long as we are alive today and we're able to do anything, then let us do it in the right way so that when those who are coming after us want to make references, they will know where to situate us in the positive or the negative side. And we don't want to be on the negative side. We have seen examples of youthful movements who have created social movements in the world and led their people to greatness. Awolowo was a young man when he started. And so when we say Baba Awolowo today, it was because he grew old before he died that we call him Baba Awolowo now. But he didn't start as a Baba, he started as a young person. And what did he do? He looked at the problem first and said, this is the solution. And he worked for it. So we now run around, not looking at the problem, just making declarations. Constitutional force majeure, slogans have a role to play at particular moments. But if your slogan is dissociated from the reality, it becomes useless.
Definitely. Thank you very much for that. And we'll just move to the next strategy. This is taking into account the strategy that are being used by Yoruba agitators and really looking at whether they actually failed to plan, because failing to plan is not just about doing nothing, but about doing things without taking into cognizance the consequences of it on the supposed movement. Now, we want to go into, before I go into that, need to just restate one of the things you said about Igbo.
Yeah.
Instead of Igbo going to Benin, going through the road and Benin then being arrested, he could have gone to the German embassy. The Nigerian, and we may remember then during the Abiola issue that there was a time, there was a claim, because there was a time they were looking for him, they couldn't find him, and there was a claim that he was actually at the American embassy. The Nigerian government will not go and attack an embassy. So he could have gone into the German embassy and they could have moved him from there into Germany. So I just want to restate that very important point. And this is what we're talking about on people having information. And before starting a journey, being able to map out both things that would work and those things that may not work, so that they can put plan in place when things doesn't go the way they should be. It's currently in Benin. I think Babakito also is in Benin, because he said they attempted to assassinate him as well. We won't delve much into that, because there's also a sort of a leadership issue happening right at the moment, but we'll put that on the side. Now, if we move to the next one, some Yoruba agitators believe that if Yoruba has the presidency this time, that is going to bring the liberation they're talking about. Let me get your views about that. Is it a strategy? We're talking, and I think we'll probably, maybe you touch this when you giving your response, between what actually people are thinking of about liberation. Is there liberation having a Yoruba person there, or also having some few Yoruba being able also to steal from Commonwealth just like the other ones are doing? Or we're actually talking about where the Yoruba nation within Nigeria, because if they are talking about presidency, that's Yoruba within Nigeria. Would that be where, or the liberation where the Yoruba people can do their own thing in their own way and contribute meaningfully to the central government? So, what's your view about this? Is this what's that strategy of, yes, we should have the presidency and then everything will be fine for us?
Well, again, simple, and the answer is actually yes and no. Simple, yes and no, in the sense that we've had it before. We had Obasanjo before as a Yoruba president. Whether we voted for him or not, or whether he considers himself Yoruba or not, is irrelevant. But he's a Yoruba president. He was there, and we know what happened. So, taking it from there, the conclusion will be that if we have a Yoruba president there, does not necessarily translate into Yoruba liberation or Yoruba freedom or Yoruba autonomy or even true federalism for Nigeria. Now, the question is, will it be easier if a Yoruba person is there? If the answer to that is yes, and the answer to that is yes, the only condition that is missing is, how are the Yoruba people being mobilized towards that goal? I think it was at the last program that we had when I mentioned Afenifere and Obasanjo during Obasanjo's rule. Obasanjo came and deceived them. He will restructure, he will do this, he will do that. And then they allowed him to run them over. But the problem with Afenifere at that time, and with most of the political establishment, was that they don't have a political program of their own. They entrusted everything to the promises made by the president, who happened to be a Yoruba person. So this time around, if a Yoruba man is able to become president, fine. That is the yes part of it. We won't deny it. Maybe they are all fighting for it, so let him get there. The no part of it is the fact that is there is a president does not automatically translate into what we want. So how do we now translate it into what we want? We can only translate it by having our own program, our own political program that will directly challenge him. So whether he opposes us or he supports us will become irrelevant, because our program, he has to address the program we put down. And that is where we say the Yoruba referendum comes in. So as long as we have such a political program of attainment for Yoruba land, it will no longer matter who becomes the president or who doesn't become the president. Because anyone, whether Yoruba or non-Yoruba, that becomes president, we have to deal with what we want. So how do we get to what we want? Now, if we don't have a referendum before the 2023 elections, and then a Yoruba person becomes president, that doesn't stop the agitation for Yoruba referendum in Yoruba land or any other peoples. If we have it before the election, of course, that's the reality he has to deal with. So the question is, how do we make that Yoruba referendum the political issue in Yoruba land? If we are able to have such a political program on ground and working towards it, the no part of it will become irrelevant, and whoever becomes president. So our problem is not who becomes the president, whoever it is. Our problem is getting our local legislators to work on the referendum that we have. And we know that the way the political system is structured, no House of Assembly will do anything outside the governor, or the governor, they know how they play the game among themselves. So those of us that are agitating for it will now have to be able to mobilize our people to put pressure. Actually, we use the word compel, to compel the houses of assembly to take action on this. That is our political, the Yoruba will say, I don't know the English translation, no, we don't have a kuda and do this. That is our weapon. That is the political weapon. That is the only way a Yoruba presidency will not disappoint us, because we are not running on his program. No matter how highfalutin his program is, we are running on our own program. And he has to be able to key into it or fight it or do something. But it is ours. That will be the difference between how Afenifere lost out and what is coming. So that we don't, every year, every 4 years, Afenifere will say, support this because he says he will restructure. Support this. No. If that restructuring is for our own benefit, and we know it is for our own benefit, we mobilize our people for it locally. Let any Yoruba man becomes president and say, you Yoruba people are speaking, but I don't care. Problem here. I mean, that's his own problem. So because we already have what we want, then we confront each other. If it is not a Yoruba president and says the same thing, we already have a weapon that we can confront him with. So that is why it is important that we have that referendum as our political fallback. But, while saying that, if a Yoruba says he wants to be president, we are not saying we are going to shoot him in the back. Go and be president. That's your own problem. Those who want to vote for him can vote for him. That's their own issue. But let us work on what we have as our weapon against anybody. And that's what has been missing in all these strategies and all this, that because of that missing link, any politician will come and say, yeah, I can turn the mountain into a level ground, vote for me. Or I am the only one with the best experience. I am the only one that is most competent. And then we start going all over the place. That is the problem we are having. So, and that is what we want to address. That for now, the question about Nigeria is not about whether competence in what? Shebi among Gozi, Wiala, and all the are they not quote unquote competent? Even the Kakalu is now talking about restructuring. These were the so-called IMF experts of those days. So we've had Chief Alai. We say he's not a competent guy. He is now denying that he was the one that introduced SAP and that he was only implementing it. Maybe we know what they all did. Professor Late Ojetunji Aboyade was an eminent professor of economics. These people are competent now in their field, and they ran Nigeria aground. So the question is not competence. The question is, how is power distributed or appropriated? And we are saying we need to mobilize our people to get to the point where they have a say in their own power. And that is the purpose of the whole thing about the referendum, because it empowers us. They are talking about, we keep saying it, talking about monetization of politics. It is very simple to demonetize politics. Again, I use the word simple. To demonetize politics, parliamentary system is there. You don't need to campaign beyond your locality, whether it is ward or local government. So what do you want to monetize? If you want to be premier of either a state or the entire region, all you need to do is to win an election to parliament from your locality. You don't need to go to even your next locality. It's only where you are. So how is anybody going to say, okay, they can come and bribe you to get election to the, but that's how to demonetize it. You look at the structures, and then, so all these things are there, they are in place. And that is how we can address this issue. So it's not just if a Yoruba man wants to be there, fine, we have no problems with it. You want to be president, no problem. Go ahead, but you are not going to see us following you. We want you to be president, but we have our own agenda. Come back to our agenda. We have to get to that point where we have to respond to our agenda.
Okay, so just to take that is that even for those people that are rooting for a Yoruba presidency, it shouldn't just be a Yoruba person getting there, but they need to have something that the presidency has to respond to, and not just leave everything that, okay, once a Yoruba is the president, we will believe that to liberate us. And of course, we can take example of, I mean, we've had the Yoruba person in government, Obasanjo for 8 years. And I mean, as far as our records are that we have, all these Yoruba states from 1999 to date have been governed by Yoruba person, not somebody from outside. So they could have done what they should do, but what is missing is that the people have not actually something that they must respond to in that office. Thank you very much for that, sir. We'll move quickly on. And the next part where we're going is the strategy of, we don't want to be part of Nigeria. What we want right now is just go and become our own nation. And people have been talking about it, Yoruba nation now, Yoruba nation now. We don't want to do anything with anybody. We don't want to have an election. We don't want to have a referendum. We just want to let them leave us alone, and we're just a nation. So I'll take your views about that, but also, and I want your that response to cover how do we achieve a nation, bearing in mind that Nigeria is not just a nation on its own. There are international connections and there are complexities, international interest as well. And starting up a new nation without a structure of leadership that just want to jump into a nation, which I think is one of the things you've referred to in the, before when you are talking about the movement in France. Although they were scoring successes, but because they didn't have a structure, it was like, okay, when we get there, we will think about it. If we look at what we have in Yoruba land, I mean, it's general to Nigeria, but just to concentrate on Yoruba land, there have been issues about unemployment. Most of our youth have their some doing, I mean, different type of things to get money, including high usage of drugs. And so, I mean, there has to be a structure. But then, I mean, that's my own view. But for the people that are saying that, no, what we just want now is just for somebody to come and say, okay, that is Yoruba nation, that's you on your own, and that is it. What are your views on it? I mean, it's a strategy from their own point of view. So what do you think about it? What's the danger in that? And what can we learn from that?
From that? Point of, let me say, correction, is not a strategy. It's just a slogan. I mean, this Yoruba is a slogan. Let me start from the second question. Okay, how do nations... Now, we say Yoruba nation already exists. We are a nation by all means. That's why we use nationalities and, nations and stuff like that. What we lack, or what we don't have, is to have a state structure of our own, a sovereign state structure. So if they are saying they want a Yoruba nation now and all that, they are just saying, okay, we want to have a country of our own with its own structure. So which means they want to secede from Nigeria. That's the bottom line. All this talking about we are not seceding, we just want a nation of our own. There is no way you can get out of an established nation without seceding from it, unless the nation pulls you out, kicks you out, which is not likely to happen in Nigeria. So to do that, it's not just, but that's why I use that. It's not to correct what to say, but not to use that thing that it is not a strategy, it is just a slogan. Because one, the global international order, the global political power structure wants to create stability in the world. So they don't want to encourage anybody just rising up anywhere and saying we are leaving this country and blah, 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 unless the government of that country itself has become obsolete. So they will not just jump in and say, because you have 5 million signatures, therefore you have had your own country. That is number one. Number two, to even become recognized in the world, there are certain things that must be in place. And if they are not in place, you can't be recognized. I will give an example of what they call Somaliland, which even came into being after the collapse of the government of Somalia of Siad Barre. By the way, after Siad Barre was overthrown, he came to Lagos. He lived in Lagos in exile and he died in Lagos or Abuja, somewhere in Nigeria. So the country broke into different places and all that. So one of them declared independence. It's called Somaliland. And they will have all these things, election and this and that. But no country recognized them. Why? Because it still exists within a chaotic environment. So in all the other countries that had their procedures that were followed, even when they talk about Southern Sudan, after 30 years war, then they organized the referendum for them to say whether they want to leave or not. Eritrea gained its independence from Ethiopia by, is it 30 or 40 years war and stuff like that. So for anyone to come and say, we want Yoruba nation now, yeah, you can want it. Anybody can want anything. That's why I said this is a slogan. But what are you doing towards achieving it? Everything that is being done towards it has fallen flat on its face and will continue to fall flat on its face because it is not even necessary. And I say that even the African Union, no matter how bad it is, was founded on the basis of respect for the boundaries of African countries. So no African country will come to your aid if push comes to shove. So those are major obstacles. Now, that doesn't mean it can't happen. Like we said, there's a reason for the United States building the largest consulate in the world in Lagos. What could be the reason? Some will say they want to support Yoruba sovereignty. Fine. Or there is a particular global implication for it. So if you want a Yoruba state, a sovereign state, to become a vassal or somebody that the West can step on and use to the rest of Africa, we don't want that. We don't want that. But what we are saying is that the question of sovereignty in Africa is sovereignty of the peoples, not of countries as such. Sovereignty of the peoples will reflect in the nature of the states that they are operating under. That's why we said the Nigerian problem is a problem of the Nigerian state. If the components, the various nationalities in Nigeria have a say in the architecture of states, we may not have, we can even, let's say the Yorubas, we have everything, and say we can have a Yoruba president in Yoruba land within Nigeria and give him some duties and blah, 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 if we want that. But these are things of the future. But what we are saying is that sovereignty is expressed in how you become part of the human environment in your totality, your cultural, social, economic, philosophical totality. So And with the experience and the history of Africa and all that I said, I don't think that anyone that wants to wage any war in Africa is wishing any African well, considering the kind of violence that we have been subjected to and continue to be subjected to. Everybody talks about Rwanda. It is also part of the attempt by one nationality to suppress the other. That was why Rwanda occurred.
Yes.
And, we don't wish that on any African nation. So if we say there's no strategy behind the Yoruba Nation Now movement, I can say that confidently. And the reason why I said I can say that confidently is there's hardly any major participant in that thing that we have not interacted with. And we know what we say to each other. So this is not a question of denigrating anybody, but it is very saddening. Let me just use the word saddening, not to use the other one that starts with S, that people are not even conversant or letting our people be aware of what. So I asked one of them, okay, you have 5 million signatures. In what manner has that become the Yoruba position? And then he said, but the political parties don't have that numbers. But we are not talking of political parties. A political party canvasses for votes based on its programs. No political party canvasses for votes based on of course, they will introduce ethnic sentiments and all that, but they are not for nationalities. So if you are talking of nationalities, then it is only proper that, yes, you have your 5 million votes. How about the remaining votes? Where are they? I mean, now only 5 million Yoruba Day for Nigeria. No. Or the world for that matter. No. So they don't have any answers. When you say the United Nations, they have now gone ahead and meet requirements. Okay, what are those requirements? So maybe we don't know. So if anybody comes to you and says we have 5 million signatures and we have met the requirements, let them provide the document that says that if you have that, you will get this. Don't rely on their words, because we know such a document doesn't exist. You don't need that document to become a member of the United Nations. And the processes of becoming a member of the United Nations are so clear that even, like we said on another program, even if you meet all the conditions today and you are not friendly with all the 5 members of the Security Council, only one of them is enough to truncate it. And right now, 3 are fighting against 2 or 1.5. So, and there's no way you can play any balancing act. So by definition, anybody that goes to the Security Council to want to be part of is just wasting his time. One or the other will veto it, and that will be the end of it. And of course, so when we raise these questions, they cannot provide answers. And then they come and say there's no need for any referendum again because they have 5 million signatures. That is a fallacy. That's a political fallacy. Because whether you have 5 million, 10 million, 20 million signatures is irrelevant. There must be a vote to determine whether what you want is what people want or not. If there is no vote, you are just putting your signatures on ground. I mean, so that's why I said, pardon me, that when I said there is not a strategy, it's not a strategy, it's not a plan, it's just a slogan. And at this point, that's why I kept saying the intellectuals, the educated people within that Yoruba Nation Now movement are to blame. They deserve all the blame that they can get, because they ought, if they don't know, they ought to know these things. And if you don't even know, you have the capacity to research.
That's it.
Okay, we want an independent Yoruba nation. Okay, how did this country become independent? What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? and stuff like that. You have the capacity, but you are not using it. And you are just deceiving people all over the place, saying because we have 5 million, we are now independent, and then they will say we will declare it. When are you going to declare? Why don't you declare it when you have your 5 million? Why are you still waiting for another time for a declaration? So there are so many things, and everything I'm saying, we have written it to them, said it to them in writing. So it's not a question of talking behind them. And like I said, I can say it anywhere in their presence because we have said it. So this is not a question of arrogance or anything, because these are very basic things that people should know, and that people should know that you don't embark. The first time when they started their Yoruba Nation now, Akeredolu asked them, okay, so where did the Yoruba decide? And then they say, no, we are not saying we want to leave. That's what Professor Akintoye was saying. We are not saying we want to leave. They just started talking around the issue. Okay, so now, I even forgot to mention it when the question of Yoruba presidency came in. The same Akeredolu is now saying they want a Yoruba president, and they are speaking on behalf of Yoruba people. So this man has provided us once again another door. Okay, you said you are speaking on behalf of Yoruba people. Then our question to him is, where did the Yoruba people decide that is what they want? Simple. So first of all, you said, where did the Yoruba people decide they want to go? Now you said you are speaking on behalf of the same Yoruba people about Yoruba president. So our question is, where did the Yoruba people decide on what you have said? So the simple answer is, let us decide now. That's why the purpose of the referendum becomes important. That we have a referendum in place. Though it's not a question of whether we want Yoruba president or not, but okay, anything that we want, we must first of all have a regional sense of belonging under a regional structure. Once we have that regional structure, it is through that structure we can decide anything that we want. And that is why we are saying, but you see everybody, all of them, they are running it, not Akeredolu, because we haven't posed it to him directly. But all these other people, they just want to run away from it. They want to run away from it. They don't even want to address it before declaring that it's no longer necessary. So the long and short of it is that slogans may be necessary at certain points, but the slogans cannot be detached from the political reality. Otherwise, it just becomes empty gas, empty thing, which is what it is. Because none of them has been able to answer any question. And we are not the only ones asking them the questions. Other people are also asking similar questions. Where did you get all this thing about 5 million signatures? So that is what we expect the educated ones, the academics, the intellectuals, the professors among them to address. And they can't address it because it's all fallacy.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for that. We'll be going on a shorter break, but before going, so just to finish off this side, because when we come back from the shorter break, we'll actually be talking about the issue of referendum and the different referendums that are being strategized by Yoruba agitators. So, but on this one, the people that are talking about 5 million, that once they have a 5 million petition to the United Nations, then they don't need a referendum. That means the 5 million. You mentioned it briefly. It's believed that Yoruba is almost about 40 or 50 million. 50 million. Mm-hmm. And this is 5 million of people supposedly that have signed the petition. Meanwhile, petition is, we're asking you to get involved.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like okay, we are signing that. Okay, that is us.
Yeah.
Next, it's just that we are calling on United Nations.
To do
Please
something.
please get involved, and in
Mhm.
which, of course, we know even if the United Nations is getting involved, it's Nigerian government they will be discussing with.
Yes.
So, but people that are saying that they've had this 5 million. Meanwhile, you've also mentioned that there is no there's no democratic exercise which raised that 5 million. The
Mhm.
ones that have other views or opinions on how Yoruba should be liberated, they've not been given a chance to say that, okay, we conducted among 10 million people, 7 million people want you to get involved. The remaining 3 million said no, they prefer something else. And then you'll be able to present that, yeah, something is being carried out. But also that group happens to be collecting, they've raised up an account because they claim that they don't need it. And I want you to connect this with where we started. That is the first major, which says, yes, from so dates, the 1999
Longer in Nigeria.
is gone, and then we are free. But at the end of the day, so in this instance now, interestingly, there were some people, or there are some people who were involved in the first one, the first major, that are still represented in this one. Now they've claimed, and I think it was yesterday, they were meant to have like a sort of conference to open on an account and ask Yoruba people to be paying into that account with the promise that they are from that account, they will be able to link it to people's passports, Yoruba passports in this case, driving license. They will be able to give them benefit just the same way it's being given in the Western world. They will be able to give people from that account, be able to give people benefits and all sorts of stuff and co. And that is, we know Yoruba is already a nation, but this is a nation that is not governing itself. And some people are already saying, yes, we've got 5 million, that is us. Now start paying into that account so that is your signature, which you have signed. We've now know all the names of the people that signed. Now start to pay money in, and then those are the things we use for things in there. What's your view about it? What's the lesson that we need to learn about it, and what should we tell the people?
Yeah. Well, what we can tell the people is to be cautious. I mean, they want to raise money, yeah. But we want to tell people to be cautious. First of all, if they want to raise money because they have achieved their 5 million, well, let's leave that aside. Because one will say things that are not necessary. The only thing is that people should simply be cautious, and for one reason: the political objective that they claim to have is a fallacy, is a lie. It is a lie to say that you need 5 million signatures for the United Nations or European Union to recognize you. It's a lie. As some Christians will say, it is a lie from the pit of hell. So if it is a lie, well, you don't need to be advised not to put your money there. That's number one. Number two, as the host says, those who are involved in the force majeure, some of them are still involved in this one also. And interestingly, the Ninas people at the force majeure are also part of those who are criticizing this 5 million stuff, calling it also a fallacy, a lie. NINAS itself, that started the force majeure, is now saying the 5 million people, 5 million signatures is a lie. So those who are doing it, whatever motivation they have, that's their own problem. But our own issue is to alert our people that yes, money is important and all that, but that's not the first consideration. The political agenda that they have should dictate whether you want to put your money there or you don't want to put your money there. If the political objective is only commodity, withdraw from it, don't put your money there. And then let me advertise ourselves now. It is allowed. If you put your money into the Yoruba Referendum Committee, what are we going to do with it? Posters, leaflets, educating materials, and things like that to let people see and understand what we are saying. We have not employed slogans, Lotiti Ju referendum law. So you know the end result of what your money is going to. But if somebody comes to you and lies to you to say that if we have 5 million people, United Nations will do this, will do that, will do that, and you know it is not true, why are you putting your money there? Even if you don't put any money in Yoruba Referendum Committee, you can use your money to buy coffee or tea and drink it and enjoy yourself. And Yoruba land will be free one way or the other. But don't go open-eyed into captivity, because that is what it means. At the end of the day, they will start fighting among each other, although they claim to have everything in place. But that's neither here nor there. So the question is, again, what are the political impulses? In their money, they said they have a central account. Any group of people can come, self-determination group can come and apply for this and that and that and all these things. The question is the basis for their existence, which is the 5 million signature, is a lie, it's a fraud, it's a political fraud. And let us call it the way it is. If we say politicians are committing political fraud, self-determination people should not be committing political fraud. And that is what they are doing. They can only prove us wrong if they come up with the documents from the United Nations and the European Union that says, if you have 5 million people, we will recognize you. Simple. Let them come up with it and we will say we are wrong and we will apologize to them. Okay. But we know such a document does not exist.
Doesn't exist. Okay, thank you very much. And of course, you've thrown the challenge to the people that they should not just go open wide eye into something that is not true. They can do their research. A lot of people now have access to the internet. Let them check whether, the United Nations website is accessible. Yeah. And then they can just plot in the 5 million signature. Is that the requirement for a nation for United Nations to get involved and separate a nation from a country? Right, we will be going for a shorter break. When we come back, we'll specifically be talking about the last one, which is referendum. Please do stay on with us.
Ti ṣe àgbà ìlú aṣọ yèwé. Ta ni yóò padà táyé ṣe o? Ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú kí ló dé o tẹ́bí ń ṣòro bí èwe kí ló dé ẹ̀yin ṣe èèyàn bí ọkà èyí ti ṣe àgbà ìlú àṣòro bí èwe. Ta ni ó padà táyé ṣe o ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú kí ló dé o tẹ́bí ń ṣòro bí èwe kí ló dé ẹ̀yin ṣe èèyàn bí ọkà èyí ti ṣe àgbà ìlú àṣòro bí èwe. Ta ni ó padà táyé ṣe o ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú kí ló dé o tẹ́bí ń ṣòro bí èwe kí ló dé ẹ̀yin ṣe èèyàn bí ọkà èyí ti ṣe àgbà ìlú àṣòro bí èwe.
Right, welcome back. We're still on the last leg of broadcast for today. Remember, what we are talking about is that question: are Yoruba agitators failing to plan and thereby planning to fail? We started with looking at the force majeure that was declared on the Nigerian government in 2020, December. And after the expiration of the time that was given, people still find out they are still operating under the Nigerian constitution. In fact, there's part of the group that are now even in court to stop the Ekiti and Osun state election. One of the elections will be happening on the 18th of this month, while the other one will happen in July. I mean, straight thing you want to ask is that if they believe that they are no longer under this constitution, why are they going to court that is set up by the constitution? I mean, that's one of the few things. We've also look at the strategy of people that says they will not allow election. They will take people out if they get involved in election, and I mean, threats and stuff. And we've seen that so far that has gone to an end now because it can't proceed beyond that. And then we've looked at the Yoruba nation now. There's people that believe that we don't even need to get involved in election. We don't even need to have anything to do with the 1999 constitution or whatever. We just want United Nations to just take us out and say, yes, this is us now. We've also looked into that. And from what our guest today said is that you also can check, is there any requirement under the United Nations where you can get a nation by just having 5 million signature? As far as we know, I mean, and that is what is available to us from the United Nations website and other informations, there is nothing like that. But please do make your own research as well so that we're well informed before we join others to take action. Remember, what we're doing for today's program is looking at those strategies and really looking at what is the end game of it. Some have come to an end, like we've said, some are still continuing, and it's very, very important for us that even for those who took part in the ones that have come to an end or the ones that are ongoing, and we believe it would not achieve anything for the Yoruba liberation, is for them to go back to the table, think about what has been discussed here, and then they can adjust their program accordingly. We've also mentioned about the strategy of having a Yoruba person as the president of Nigeria. Will it lead to the liberation of the Yoruba people? And of course, we've had Yoruba person in government before, and our guest has also mentioned in the past that whoever you have now, they first of all pledge allegiance to their party. They are going to run their party's manifesto, not a Yoruba interest manifesto. So yes, we could have a Yoruba president there, but that will not, without us have something on ground for them to deal with, that will not bring any impact, Yoruba liberation. So in this sector, we now want to talk about referendum, and why referendum is preferred is the fact that referendum involved the people. One of the issues that has been raised, or the major issue that has been raised against the 1999 Constitution, is that we, the people, did not partake from it. So most of the other strategies that does not involve the people, and when we say the people, both the people that agrees with what you put forward and the people that do not agree, they have to be represented. Yeah. So we've looked at some of these strategies that doesn't involve the people. Even some of the ones that involve the people, if they put it under serious scrutiny, they won't have a sort of a democratic process which produced that majority. And that's why referendum is sort of favored, because it involves the people. It's not just the politicians or those people at the top making decisions for the people. But when we talk about the referendum also, we've had different referendum, that different groups are leading now. Some believe that, which I think Nina is part of them now, that the United Nations will come and conduct a referendum in Nigeria. Now, the Yoruba Referendum Committee is saying that, well, UN should not be the first contact. Things should be resolved. There should be something within the country which gives the Yoruba people legitimacy. And if the federal government kicks against that, then that is when the international body will get involved. Now, let's look at the first part. And I think probably you've answered this in part of the one we spoken about, whether a nation within a nation state can actually go to United Nations and say, come and conduct referendum for us. Do we have such in history? And if we don't have it, what can we learn? Or what sort of lesson do we want to pass to maybe the organizations that are following that path, so that they could recheck their facts and make adjustment before it's too late?
To the best of my knowledge, there is no time any part of any country will go to the United Nations and say that they should come and conduct a referendum for them. And we have to, again, it's very important to always be conversant about contemporary and, history and experiences. We don't even need to go too far. There is Catalonia there. There is Scotland there. How many times have we heard or read that Scotland, even when Britain allowed, that is when England, the UK, Westminster, allowed Scotland to have its independence referendum, did the Scottish go to the United Nations before that happened? No. Did Catalonia go to the United Nations before they conducted their referendum? No. So we don't need to, that's why I called it political fraud. These things are there to check. The United Nations will not come and conduct any referendum for anybody to live anywhere unless there is a complete, total breakdown. And the United Nations intervention will only occur at the instance of the Security Council, which will act based on the balance of interest they are having. At this time, the United Nations Security Council cannot agree on anything unless they resolve the Ukraine issue, which is a big fight between the two blocs. So if they don't resolve it, forget about the United Nations to do anything. Maybe they will come and do the refugees and the internally displaced persons and all that too, but that's the end of it. But that's a minor part. The major part and my major critique of these people is this. You want liberation for your people, but you are not empowering your people to take the bull by the horns. You are now asking another external agency to come and liberate them. What kind of liberation is that? So if you say you want self-determination, it's very self-explanatory, Leon, self-explanatory. Self means self. It doesn't mean other. So if you say you want self-determination, then you should do something by yourself. But you are now saying you want self-determination. You are now saying, oh yeah, other, come and self-determine for me. Because that is what it means. So when we say Yoruba referendum, we are saying in the most peaceful democratic manner, let the Yoruba people decide for themselves what they want. If the federal government or central government now wants to fight, we can be taking that up. But first of all, because we say we want self-determination for ourselves, we must take the first step towards that determination. But these people are saying, they even are even going, we want sovereignty, we are United Nations, come and help us. What kind of sense is that? And again, to link it up with the history, colonialism, slavery, and all that, we were saying it is the West that did this, the West that did that, the West came, they plundered Africa, they did that, they did this, they did that. And it is the same West we are running to come and save us from another internal colonizer. Again, we look at our history. When, yes, we were under colonial rule. So the colonial forces, they were in the thing and they created the conditions. But what did our Awolowos do? They said, okay, these are the conditions we are in. They did all their fighting and struggle and all that and all that. They said, the colonial force, they said, let us have legislative elections first in 1923. They kicked against that. They said, we want a better thing. When they said, okay, go and have elections, what did the Awolowo people do? They went and mobilized Yoruba people through the action group to win a majority in parliament. And they moved on from there. They could have, at that time, the United Nations was even actively involved in decolonization of colonial territories. They could have easily written to the United Nations and said that they should come and intervene in Nigeria now. But they didn't. Not that there were no reasons. Maybe the British forces killed people in Enugu in 1949, the Enugu coal miners. They did all kinds of rubbish. But they didn't start writing petitions to the United Nations, even at a period when the United Nations was actively involved in the decolonization process. That was the basis for this right for self-determination that the US was talking about. At that time, it was a self-determination of colonial or colonized peoples. So at this point, if you are talking about self-determination and all that, it's not about colonized people, but within sovereign states. But these people, they didn't go to unite, they mobilized themselves, they did whatever it is they did, whether we consider it right or wrong at this point, they did what they did, and they let people decide where they want to go. That was why I said the last time, when they started their action group, they called it the action group. Then some of them say, okay, but we are mobilizing Yoruba people. How do we translate action group to Yoruba so that the Yoruba can understand it? And Akinloye said, oh, okay, let's call it Afenifere. Freedom for all, life more abundant. That was their slogan. How do we translate it into Yoruba? Freedom for all, life more abundant. Afenifere, mo fẹ́ mi, mo fẹ́ ra mi, mo dẹ̀ fẹ́ rí fún wọn náà. That was how Afenifere came into being, became a part of the political lexicon. They didn't say, okay, let us go to the United Nations so that they can appeal for us. No. So what we are saying now is, if we are talking of self-determination, the people, is not by your monetary contribution that will give you self-determination. Your contribution to the fund may be help, but you have to take political steps that will achieve that self-determination for you. And that is what is missing in these people. So when they started out, constitutional force majeure, how will you enforce, let's even assume that there's a contract, how will you enforce it? No way. So the time came, nothing happened. After that, they fought among themselves. They created different organizations. And then they said they have Ilano and they have a path. And so what is the path? By contributing money? I mean, that is, you need money to do all these things. So what is the strategy that Ilano has provided? Ọ̀nà wo ni Ìlànà là sílẹ̀? So they have even violated the basic definition of self-determination because they don't have a program of action to achieve it. So, and we are saying, yes, self-determination, autonomy for all the peoples of Nigeria. And this is the way we want to achieve it. What is the way? We say Yoruba referendum, this and everything. And then these people turned around and then said, we don't need referendum again because we have 5 million signatures. Signatures to where? To whom? To do what? So if you have it, then you don't need, all you need to do is just to make a declaration. Abi? So these things are very serious, even though we make light of it. They are simple. Yeah, they are simple. But let's start from where we should start. Self-determination is self-explanatory. What is the road that they are putting down to actualize it? We have put down our own road. It is our hope that people will see the sense and the need to pursue that road, the most peaceful and democratic manner. And we are not saying we want to overthrow any government or secede or anything like that. What we are saying is a political process that we expect everyone to become involved in. Because if you don't involve, like you said, when you condemn the Constitution for fraudulently using we the people, Abi, we the people, you say people did not participate, and you want to change that Constitution, and you are not even making the people the center of what you are changing, then what's the difference between you and those who fraudulently use the word? So the challenge is still there for them. And then, when we say, and look, again, the nature of their fraudulent practice, I'm using those words now. I always try to shy away. It is very written clearly that our petition is to the houses of assembly in Yoruba land to do this and this. Everything is there in black and white. Then they turn around and started saying that we want Nigeria to come and conduct a referendum for us. Where did we ever say that? In any of our bulletins that they read, because I know Professor Akintoye gets copies of it. We have never, in fact, we wrote a bulletin against the National Assembly conducting any referendum in Nigeria. And it is clear on what we are saying. It is right there on change.org that our houses of assembly to pass the law for a referendum to constitute a, Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, and all the rest of it, to do these things. There is nothing that says we are taking it to the National Assembly or we want Buhari to intervene or this and that. But these people now turn around and started saying that what we are saying is that we want Nigeria to conduct a referendum. That is political fraud. And these are intellectuals. These are professors. Now, you don't have to agree with us. You don't have to agree with what we are doing. But at the same time, you cannot be damaging our reputation simply because you are a professor or you are an elder. So that is the point. That is the point. It is very there. It is clear, black and white, and we are not shy about it. And we are not saying they should not be pursuing their whatever it is they are pursuing. All we are simply saying is, any road you want to pursue, show us the road. We have shown our own. This is the road. Show us your own. So anybody that wants to contribute money to it, it is not the money that you contribute that will lead to what they call Yoruba sovereignty. Let them show you the road they want to achieve. And then if you say you have 200 organizations or so many organizations that are behind you, if they need anything, they should apply for the money and stuff like that. So if you have 200 organizations and 200 pathways towards your sovereignty, and the 200 can be fighting against each other, you'll be giving them money. Abi, A comes and says, we want to do this. B comes and says, we want to do that. And what A wants to do is different from what B wants to do and can come into conflict. So you give both of them money. That means you yourself, you don't know what you are doing. So, and if C comes and says, we want to fight the Nigerian government, we need money to buy arms. And then you say, no, we can't give you money because we are not fighting. And then C becomes your enemy. But the only way to resolve all these differences is very simple. Create a pathway. This is the pathway we are going. If you don't want to be part of it, don't even come near us. We are not forcing anybody. You want to buy, you know that you want to follow us. Come on board, we will go ahead. That's why we are saying we can confidently say in the Yoruba Referendum Committee, the Yoruba Referendum is our pathway. Whether you want to be president or governor or anybody, it doesn't concern us. If you want to be president and you line up behind the Yoruba Referendum, you are welcome. If you want to be president and you want Yoruba Referendum Committee to line up behind you, you are not welcome.
Yeah.
Our duty is to the Yoruba people. That the more Yoruba people that want liberation can line up behind us without any condition. That is very clear. We will say, so, but we put all these things in writing, and then you turn around and say they want Buhari to come out. Where is that coming from? So when you start Yoruba, when you start something like that on the basis of a false foundation, it's going to crumble. So I mean, the differences are clear. We don't need to, it's there, change.org. You don't need to believe what I'm saying. Go and read it. It's there, change or Yoruba Referendum Committee. Everything that we state is there in clear terms. And we thank all those who have been signing and those who are looking at it and continue to sign and all that. And we thank them and we encourage other people to, and we even put in their photos. These are their speakers. So speakers of Yoruba Houses of Assembly. Where is Buhari there? Where is Nas? We didn't, even the speaker who is a Yoruba, we didn't put him there because it's not their business. These are the governors of Yoruba land. Where is Buhari? Even we have PDP man there. We didn't say only APC, I'll be only PDP. We are saying this is for Yoruba people, and it is very clear, written in black and white. And the professor will come and say they want Buhari to come and do the, what kind of, anyway, let's go. That is beyond the scope of King. So we are clear in what we are doing. And they are the ones that are befuddling the issue. And like I said, you don't have to agree with us. You can even, you can ask your people to vote no against it. It's part of the thing. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. So we say Yoruba people are educated people. Let us put our education into use by not allowing anybody to just bamboozle us with how great Yoruba nation is, and stuff like that. That is not the point. Let us stick with what we are doing. Let us stick with the truth. Let anybody tell us exactly how you want to achieve the goal you have set before us. We are doing it. We are saying you don't have to agree with it, but at least you know where we are coming from. Yes. Let them come out and say, this is where we are going. Yes, we don't have to expose everything. We know all that. But at least, you don't have to hide everything either.
Yes. Sure.
So it's very simple.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, Alagba Femi Odedeyi. And for those of you that have been staying with us on the program. And that is us right at the end of the program. Remember, all organization Yoruba agitation groups and agitators, we want people to pick how to learn lessons from what we've discussed so that we can look back into our strategy and get things right. And also, not just only that, for the masses as well, we need to start querying the organizations that are coming to us. We need to start asking them questions. It's the same thing we've told us about politicians, that when they come with their promises, vote for us and go, you need to start putting something right before them to do, and not just listening and then just going to use your PVC, PVC to vote. You need to start engaging them. You need to start holding them accountable. So, and Alagba Femi Odedeyi is always here every two weeks. So even for those of you who would watch this and you have questions, or the ones that Yoruba Referendum Committee is doing as well, and you think that, okay, this place will not work or this thing, I mean, they are open. Bring the questions on. We'll bring him on in another 2 weeks. He will deal with those questions. And that's what we say, this is how the Yoruba Liberation Movement could progress. You have your own way, they have their own way. You share notes. You pick that part you are talking. Have you talked about this? Or have you ever seen this happen anywhere? Or is this what you are saying? Is it in any documentation? If it's not there, maybe the group has not thought about it, then it would be an opportunity to go and check and see, oh, actually, there's nothing like this, so it won't fly. And that's the purpose of the program for today, to educate us about all these strategies and actually looking at it, because if something is not in United Nations requirements and a group is telling people that that is what we need to get this thing from United Nations, then that is not correct. That is not the truth, and that is very, very unfair to the people, the Yoruba people. Like we've said, every error, whether it's done intentionally or not, that is made by any of the groups, it has an impact in the Yoruba Liberation Movement generally. And we see the way things are happening at the moment. We've seen what has happened in our Ondo state today. Remember that Governor Keredolu is the leader of the Southwest governors. Is the one that has been talking. Is from Ondo state, they arrested some cows that were roaming about or going to people's farms. They also, I think it was in Ondo state as well, where it's clearly spoken, is the one that is as the leader of the governors, is the commandant of Amatekun, and it's also the one that has spoken of recent that is somebody from South, actually Yoruba, that they want as presidency. So what happened today is not just a coincidence. It's a statement. And this is where the Yoruba people, the Yoruba masses, that we're saying that we want to take charge of our destiny and that of our children in the future. This is the time we need to rise up and say, this is what we want. And our political leaders within the Yoruba states has to work on what we want, because they are representing us there. Even if they are their own political parties and co, they came to collect our votes because they are accountable to us. So we need to push things back to them, and we want them to get active. And that is why Yoruba Referendum Committee does not believe that the journey has to start from United Nations. No, it has to start from home. We'll get the legitimacy, and that legitimacy, which will be put in as the voice of the people, will now go far if, like, push comes to pull with the federal government. Thank you very much. If you go to change.org, look for Yoruba Referendum.
Yeah.
Thank you for all those people that have signed. It's over 11,000 signature now.
Mm-hmm.
We were hoping that even the other group will have their member to come and sign so that we can have the 5 million, and then we can have pressure
Yeah.
go at home and whichever other one they want to do with
Yeah.
the United Nations. So we're hoping they too will think about this, that we need charity begins at home. We
Yeah.
need first of all to engage and put our representatives, both the governors and but most importantly, the members of the state houses of assembly, because it's a lawmaking
Yeah.
organ of government. So they have a right to make laws. I mean, it's their duty to make laws.
Mhm.
So, and we're pushing it to them. They already have the bill.
Yeah.
All the governors and all the speakers, they already have the bill. It's just for them to discuss it and pass it into law. Then we can start the fight with the federal government if the federal government wants to get in the ring.
Yes.
But
Mhm.
we will have done the first step, and then let's even say the federal government, after the bill has been passed into law, the federal government decided to frustrate and
Yeah.
not allow the referendum to take place. But already the representative of the people have passed it into law. So that means a law is standing,
Yeah.
which they cannot just take away.
Yeah.
One other thing we've mentioned is that with what is happening in Nigeria now, anything can happen. Between now and 2023, anything whatsoever. Some people have suggested government of national unity. Some people have said doctrine of necessity could come up. The military could strike. So what will be the demand of the Yoruba people if any of this happens? If we have the referendum in place, that means whatever is done, whether it's a military takeover or another arrangement and co, Yoruba will put something down that this is what we are demanding. We want, our people want to vote and decide what we want.
Yeah.
It will not be like the Afenifere saying, oh, and this is the people you should vote for.
Mm-hmm.
While another group from Yoruba land is saying, no, don't vote for this person. This is the person you must vote for. And then everything is scattered. But if we have that, we want our people. It's not even about any leader. It's not about any elder. It's about the people. And that's what gives power to the politicians, is that our people want to vote and make a decision on how they want that space that is for Yoruba, how it will be governed. So even if the federal government wants to come against anybody, it's not coming against any leader. It's not coming against anybody.
Yes, no.
It's the people. It's the people that say, listen, this is what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure the federal government cannot come against 50 million Yoruba people.
Mm-hmm.
If we are determined, and what we are asking for is legal and lawful all over the world. It happened in Scotland, where this station is based. We had a referendum in 2014. We're planning to have another one.
Very soon.
Nothing is about it. And we've had other countries that have done it as well. So those of us that are here in the diaspora, we should try as much as possible to educate our people that are back home.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not saying that people that are back home can't find their own information, but I think they actually look up to those of us that are in the diaspora for some information. So we should get them into acting in a way that whatever happens in Nigeria, whether it's political power that we have now, or it's government of
national unity,
or a coup. Yoruba is saying that, whatever you are doing is fine, but what we want to vote as Yoruba people on how we want our own nation to be.
Yeah.
And that cannot be wished away. It's not about any political party. It's not about APC or PDP. You can see on the poster, you see all the governors there, the ones that are APC, the ones that are PDP. So it's not against any one of them. You see them there And it's not about one political leader against the other, like we're having with some. It's really about our people have a right to make decisions, and we are asking that right be respected. It's not that right should be given. No, we already have it, but that right should be respected, and the vote should be allowed to take place. So once again, Alagba Femi Odedeyi, thank you for your time. We will see you in another 2 weeks. Of course, other people, you can also join Alagba Femi Odedeyi on Yoruba Referendum Facebook page on Thursdays, 7 p.m., and that is Nigerian time. So I'll be bidding you goodbye for now. From here, thank you very much, and we hope to catch up with you very soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
All right.
Right, thank you. People that have stayed on with us, thank you very much. We will be right back next Saturday. Next Sunday. We were doing Saturday and Sunday, but we're waiting up for our Saturday crew to get back in. So until then, please do stay safe. And remember, if you are Yoruba person, please go to change.org. We're going to put the link in the comment. Go and sign. It won't take you 2 minutes for you to sign. And it's just so simple, calling on the Southwest Yoruba States Houses of Assembly and Governors to sign the bill that is already with them into law. And the bill is to say that the Yoruba people have the right to vote to decide whether they want all the states to come together and become one or not. I think that is very straightforward. So do have a wonderful week, and we'll catch up next weekend. Thank you, and bye for now.
Lean ho. Lean.